Bangladesh, a nation accustomed to political turbulence, finds itself once again on the precipice. Student-led demonstrations against government policies have spiraled into widespread unrest. The streets of Dhaka and other major cities have become battlegrounds. Protesters, many of them students, have clashed violently with security forces. The air is thick with tear gas and gunfire. Frustration with the ruling Awami League government fuels the flames of discontent. The situation escalated, culminating in the resignation of Prime Minister Hasina and military intervention. The world watches, hoping for a peaceful resolution. In a stunning turn of events, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina announced her resignation on date of resignation. Her decision followed days of intensifying protests and mounting pressure from both within the country and from the international community. The move sent shockwaves through Bangladesh and beyond, marking a dramatic end to her 12-year reign. Shortly after Hasina's announcement, the military stepped in, declaring a state of emergency and announcing the formation of an interim government.
We vow to restore order and oversee a peaceful transition of power.
The military's intervention has been met with mixed reactions. While some see it as a necessary step to prevent further bloodshed, others fear it could herald a return to military rule. Bangladesh has a long and troubled history with military coups, and many are wary of the army's involvement in politics. The international community has urged restraint and called for a swift return to civilian rule. To understand the roots of this crisis, one must look back to the initial trigger for the protests. It all began with a seemingly innocuous issue: quotas in government jobs. For years, Bangladesh has had a system in place reserving a certain percentage of government jobs for specific groups, including members of marginalized communities and the families of those who fought for the country's independence in 1971. However, a recent Supreme Court ruling threw this system into disarray. The court, in a landmark decision, declared the quota system unconstitutional, arguing that it violated the principle of equality. This decision ignited a firestorm of controversy. Supporters of the quota system, largely from marginalized communities who have historically faced discrimination, argued that it was essential for ensuring their representation in government. They saw the court's decision as a direct attack on their rights and a betrayal of the principles of affirmative action. Students in particular were galvanized by this issue, taking to the streets in large numbers to demand the reinstatement of the quotas. What began as peaceful demonstrations quickly descended into chaos. The government's response to the protests was widely condemned as heavy-handed. Security forces, including police and paramilitary units, used tear gas, rubber bullets, and even live ammunition to disperse the crowds. Protesters, in turn, resorted to throwing stones and Molotov cocktails. As the violence escalated, the death toll mounted. Hospitals were overwhelmed with the injured, many suffering from gunshot wounds and the effects of tear gas. The attack on a police station in the city of Name of City marked a particularly dark chapter in the unrest. Protesters, angered by the death of a fellow demonstrator, stormed the station, setting it ablaze. The ensuing clash claimed the lives of several police officers and protesters. The government blamed the opposition for inciting violence, and accused them of using the protests to destabilize the country. The opposition, however, denied these allegations, pointing the finger at the government's repressive tactics and its failure to address the legitimate grievances of the protesters. Section 5. Voices from the chaos. The situation in Bangladesh has left the world reeling, desperate for clarity amidst the chaos.
The military's sole purpose is to restore peace and stability. We call for calm and urge all parties to engage in dialogue.
However, protest leaders remain skeptical, demanding a clear timeline for a return to civilian rule and guarantees of a fair and impartial investigation into the deaths of protesters.
We want democracy, not another era of military rule.
International observers and experts on the region are closely monitoring the situation, expressing deep concern over the violence and the potential for further instability.
Bangladesh is at a crossroads. The military's intervention, while perhaps necessary in the short term, carries significant risks. The key now is for all stakeholders to prioritize dialogue and work towards a peaceful and democratic resolution.
Section 6. Hasina's legacy, triumphs and tensions. Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of Bangladesh's founding father Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, has been a dominant figure in the country's politics for decades. Her Awami League party has been credited with overseeing a period of significant economic growth and development. Under her leadership, Bangladesh made remarkable strides in poverty reduction, education, and healthcare. However, her tenure was not without its share of controversies. Critics accused her government of becoming increasingly authoritarian, cracking down on dissent and stifling freedom of speech. The disappearance and deaths of several opposition activists and journalists raised serious concerns about human rights abuses. The Awami League's use of the Rapid Action Battalion, an elite security force accused of extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances, drew international condemnation. Despite these criticisms, Hasina remained a popular figure among many Bangladeshis, particularly for her strong leadership and her commitment to development. Her resignation marks the end of an era, but her legacy will undoubtedly continue to shape Bangladesh's political landscape for years to come. Section 7. Cautious Hope, Lingering Fears. The resignation of Prime Minister Hasina and the military's intervention have been met with a mixture of hope and apprehension in Bangladesh. In the streets, where just days ago the sounds of clashes and gunfire filled the air, there is a palpable sense of relief. The violence has subsided, at least for now, and people are cautiously venturing out of their homes. For some, the military's presence brings a sense of security, a belief that order will be restored.
We just want peace. It doesn't matter who is in charge, as long as the violence stops.
However, for others, the military's involvement evokes painful memories of the past. Bangladesh has a history of military coups and authoritarian rule, and many fear a return to those dark days.
We have fought hard for our democracy. We will not allow the military to snatch it away from us.
Section 8. Bangladesh at a crossroads. Bangladesh stands at a critical juncture. The country is deeply polarized. The challenges ahead are immense. The priority is to restore peace and stability. The military must exercise restraint. Addressing the root causes is crucial. Grievances about the quota system and corruption cannot be ignored. Concrete steps are needed for a just society. The international community has a vital role. Bangladesh needs support to rebuild its democracy. Section 9. The international response. The international community has been watching the events in Bangladesh with growing concern. The United States, a key development partner of Bangladesh, has called for calm and restraint from all sides. In a statement, the State Department urged the Bangladeshi authorities to respect the rights of peaceful protesters and to hold accountable those responsible for the violence. The European Union has echoed these sentiments, emphasizing the importance of upholding human rights and the rule of law.
The UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, has expressed his deep concern over the situation and called for a peaceful resolution to the crisis.
Neighboring India, which shares a long border with Bangladesh and has close historical ties to the country, has been closely monitoring the situation. Indian officials have expressed their hope for a swift return to normalcy in Bangladesh and have offered their support in any way possible. Section 10. Rebuilding a Nation. As Bangladesh grapples with the aftermath of the recent unrest, the daunting task of rebuilding a fractured nation looms large. The violence has left deep scars on the country's social fabric, exacerbating existing divisions and eroding trust in institutions. The road to recovery will be long and arduous, demanding a collective effort from all segments of society. One of the most pressing challenges is healing the wounds of division. The protests and the ensuing violence have exposed deep-seated fault lines within Bangladeshi society, highlighting the need for dialogue and reconciliation. Bridging the gap between the government and the people, particularly the youth who have been at the forefront of the protests, will be crucial for restoring stability. Addressing the root causes of the unrest is equally important. The grievances that fueled the protests, including concerns about corruption, lack of accountability, and shrinking democratic space, must be addressed in a meaningful way. This requires not just cosmetic changes, but a genuine commitment to reform and good governance. Section 11. The Uncertain Path Forward. The path forward for Bangladesh remains shrouded in uncertainty. The resignation of Prime Minister Hasina and the military's intervention have created a fluid and unpredictable situation. The coming weeks and months will be crucial in determining the country's trajectory. The success of the transition will depend on a number of factors, including the military's willingness to exercise restraint, the ability of political actors to engage in dialogue, and the international community's continued support. The formation of an inclusive interim government, tasked with overseeing fresh elections and restoring democratic institutions, will be a critical step. However, the road to democracy is rarely smooth. Bangladesh will need to navigate numerous challenges, including potential spoilers, who may seek to exploit the situation for their own gain. The resilience of the Bangladeshi people, their unwavering commitment to democracy, and the support of the international community will be crucial in guiding the nation